Welcome back to the Last Word Podcast. As always, I'm Jay.
And I'm Rabbit.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for the response from last week's episode, our first one back in the new year. It's very exciting.
Back into it.
Yep, I'm also excited about this one. Before we get into anything else, quick reminder, please like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, all those things. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all the support. It's amazing to see it every time. Thank you so much. Of course, any questions, concerns, business stuff, email us at lastwordapparel@gmail.com. Now, I guess let's get into it. Last Word Podcast. How you doing?
Good. We had a weird week.
It was weird. It was the first kind of week back, back into things, not sick, living,
right.
And it was strange. I had a couple strange moments myself that were just, we should just talk about them. You know what I mean?
Think
they
so.
were just.
I think they're interesting.
So weird. The first one, the way you described it after made perfect sense. It was like I was buffering, with what happened because it was so strange. We just got done eating. We went up front to pay. It was Denny's.
So we went to Denny's.
So you go up to pay at the front, and right off the bat, I feel like slow, like I'm in control, but I'm not. It felt like when I described Human Fall Flat, that game,
Yeah.
Like my body was just weird, and so I got out my money and I counted it. I was gonna give exact change because I already left the tip at the table. And I just had it. It was all perfect, but then I'm like pulling the change out of my pocket, and I drop it as it's coming out of my pocket. I drop it.
Yeah, so it goes all over the floor.
And I'm like, oh well, that's ridiculous. Pick it up, no big deal. And then I go to hand it to her, hand her the cash, handing her the change, and then I don't really I dropped the change.
Yeah.
Like all over her hands. Her hands were just out, and they just they just fell. Like all the quarters and the pennies, they just and I was just like, what the fuck? Like in my head in that moment, just like watching it slow motion, like what the fuck just happened? Like why?
But okay, so the weird thing is, the other half of the weird thing of this whole moment or moments is, when we first walked into Denny's, we kind of walked in and it felt like different. It felt like we walked into like a parallel universe.
Yeah, it was weird already.
Because we had like 3 people. They're each like a hostess, a server, someone in the back. Yeah. All say welcome to Denny's.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like a manager lady, because that's what she looked like.
Yeah.
A hostess, and then like a server in the back, and each one of them, like one by one, said welcome to Denny's, and it was
in different tones of voice, different levels of like excitement.
Right. It was
excitement.
Right. Cool. Right. I mean, how excited can you be? But it was so weird. That off the bat was strange, because it was like each one chiming in, saying the same thing, but differently, and one after another.
Yeah.
And it was so weird.
And one of the people that was up front that said welcome to Denny's was one of the people that
she was the one
checked
I
us
was
out.
paying.
Yeah. But she was kind of weird. I mean, like, I don't want to say weird because we don't know what was going on,
Right.
But she was the person that you dropped the change with.
Yeah.
And the other part of that was that she froze.
Yeah. Yeah.
For like a good 5 seconds. She didn't move. She didn't talk. She held her hand out for the change, but when it dropped, she didn't move.
Yeah.
She didn't go, oh no.
She's like, oh no, and tried to catch it, or
bent down to pick it up real quick.
She didn't even say anything.
Nothing.
It fell out of my hand so strangely and so awkwardly, and it just hit her hands, and she just stood there, and she wasn't even really looking at the change. She didn't move her head or see where it fell. She was just standing there looking.
Yeah, and then after
down,
it wasn't after
straight forward kind of. It was weird.
It wasn't after you said something, you're like, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. And then finally after a second after you said that, then she was like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then she did her thing. And then it seemed like time not sped up, but went forward.
Yeah, it was
There was a good
strange.
minute there where I was pretty sure we were
like, where are
something
we?
was weird.
Yeah, there was like a glitch in the matrix, or like,
which is like
you said,
a weird phenomenon. Like, it's a thing where people have weird stuff happen to them, and like they can't explain it. Like
what happened? Yeah, because I really felt not in control. Yeah, it was so weird, and like you said, it was like you were watching us buffering. And that's what it felt like too. Yeah, it felt so strange.
It felt like she froze completely. Like, so she wasn't working. You were buffering, but I was still thinking sound and normal.
Right.
Like, my movements were still normal. I was okay. Like, I was moving around looking at both of you like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Right.
It was strange.
It was like trying to watch YouTube in 2005. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It was just so weird. Like, you have to hit refresh a lot. That's what it felt like. And that's what it felt like. I felt like I had control of my limbs and what I was doing, but not really. And things were happening that I wasn't in control of, like the dropping and the like.
Yeah.
It was so strange. But even to go back to like the beginning where they did that like welcome to Denny's, all three. That was weird because like, I mean, you would think that like if it was me and I were in that situation, if one of them said it, that's all you need, right?
Yeah, like I wouldn't feel compelled to say it.
Yeah,
I would just stand there and smile.
Why would you feel the like? It's just why would you feel the need to continue that? Like, one says it should be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why would one person want to say it again, and then why would another? Like, two after that was so weird.
It was strange.
It was
even when we sat down to eat. Like, it was a weird. Afternoon eating at Denny's.
Yeah, I had a Beyond Burger, and that was cool.
Oh, which we also found out, or we've been finding out, that they're not as healthy for us as we thought.
They're not super healthy, or at least not.
Well, in certain areas.
In certain areas, they're not really healthier than meat. And
I guess the bigger thing is that they're good for the planet.
Right.
But they're not necessarily good for you. They're really high in sodium.
Yeah.
But the other stuff can be almost as good as a regular burger, maybe a little better.
Yeah.
Like when you look at like fat and you know, stuff like that, and the fact that they're not meat.
But really comparative, they're like pretty close.
Yeah.
And the Beyond Burger was really high in sodium.
Yeah, like a
really
scary high amount of sodium. And turkey is the best, actually. Right. Is the best meat.
Yeah.
To make
and, you know, of course,
burger.
it depends on how much salt you add when you're making a burger. But if you make a burger with beef, it was 85% lean beef, and like a little bit of salt on it, it would be better than a Beyond Burger patty. Yeah. As far as health-wise, I feel like it is. Which kind of blew my mind, because that would be the only reason right now for me I'd switch from meat to non-meat, would be for health-wise. I don't really care about the planet.
Well,
fuck the world.
I'm
just kidding. I'm just kidding. My God. I mean, I do.
We care about the planet.
Yes,
Save
I absolutely
the
do. Save the sea turtles.
Because without turtles,
because if we didn't have sea turtles,
we wouldn't have sea turtles.
Yeah, then we wouldn't have sea turtles.
Well, no, I mean, we have reusable straws. We bought a pack of them. Yeah. And we've been using them.
And I honestly have no problem with Beyond Meat or things that aren't meat. No. He did force it. We have no problem with Beyond Meat and things that aren't meat or anything like that. But when I looked at it like that with health-wise, I was like, fuck. Yeah. Because sodium's bad. Sodium's like a silent killer. That'll fuck you up. Yeah. Sodium will fuck people up. And people don't know that. They're all like worried about health and fat, trans fat and shit like that. Carbs. It's like, but if you intake a lot of sodium, you're gonna it's not gonna be good. Yeah,
I mean, it's one thing that like my doctor, I guess our doctor, when I got my gallbladder removed, that he started like warning us about salt and sodium and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, you have to watch for that too. Yeah. So that was interesting because you also had that moment in the middle of the restaurant as I was like telling you about it and like looking up the article for you.
Like, yeah, it's true. Sodium. Killer. I think even Dave Chappelle has a joke about it. He's like, there's only one thing in America that's killing black men more than police. It's sodium.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But it's true. So watch out for that. At the end of it, I was like as I was ordering, I was like, I should have just got a regular burger. I just learned all this. Oh no. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it was fine. And it was good. But that whole moment, it's pretty much the whole time except for when we were eating, it was kind of weird. Like being
well, yeah,
there.
because then we had like a weird couple that was kind of next to us, like.
Yeah, it was like, are they friends? Is it like mom and son?
Okay,
or
so
are they
yeah,
like...
it was like a 20-something-year-old,
Yeah,
probably mid-20s to late 20-year-old, and what looked to be like at least a 55-plus-year-old woman.
Definitely,
if not maybe very early 60s. And it was weird because you said that he might be gay, which is perfectly fine, but he was very much a nerd. Because he was talking about YouTube videos.
He was talking about YouTube videos and specific YouTubers. And then he was talking about the new Charlie's Angels. And then I thought, oh, he's going to talk shit about it. But then he was, like, defending it and saying, like, you know, like, talking about women in action films. And then started talking about Kristen Stewart and then, like, defending her.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this dude's, like, really into that. That's... For me, like, personally, like, at least from my experiences, and I could be completely wrong, like, that's not normal for, like, a regular... Like, well, not a regular, but, like, my complete, like, straight friend to walk up to me, and he'd be like, oh, did you hear about Kristen? Like, you know what I mean? Then that wouldn't happen.
We know the people that would come up to us and talk to us about that stuff. Mm-hmm. We're not going to name names, but we know who you are. If you come up and start...
Do you realize how horrible that fucking sounds? Why would you say it like that? Jesus Christ. We're not gonna name names, but we know who you are.
We know who you are,
and we're gonna write it on your door. Like, what the fuck?
Well,
don't say it like that. We're gonna give you a pink triangle to sew onto your clothes.
Oh
like,
my
what
god!
The fuck?
Okay, I didn't even mean to go that far. All right, let's start over.
I don't want to even continue with that. The point was,
we know the friends that would talk to us.
No, that's not the point. No, what is wrong with you? The point is that the couple who was sitting there is we didn't know like what they were, because at first it was like, oh, mom and son maybe, because she was a lot older than he was, and they were eating at Denny's together. But then they started talking about like going on a trip together, but they weren't talking like a familial like trip, like, you know, do this and this.
Yeah,
and,
they were like talking about going to a different country,
or like dad and like so and so. Like, it was the way they were talking about it was, I was like, okay, maybe they're friends, but then they kept talking about. I was like, okay, they're friends, which is kind of weird, but not as weird, because I was like, or they're a couple, which is really kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird all the way around, because like, how many people do you know our age that's just friends and goes to Denny's that are, you know, like 55 years old, who aren't our parents,
right?
Or another family member.
Well, I mean, and who at the same time, like, I'm not saying this because like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, we don't give a shit.
No,
it was just weird.
It was just strange to not know.
Yeah.
But then, and I'm pretty sure like she paid.
Yeah.
And then they left in her van.
Yeah, and it was a van.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, no, people who drive, it says something if you drive a van. Like, you're either a mom or, like, people, like, who don't need a van don't just drive a van around. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason for it. So, I don't know. It was weird, though, to, like, think, like, oh, maybe they're just really close friends. And that's kind of weird. Like, age gap, like, friends like that is kind of strange. Like, 55 versus, like, 23. But your friends can be strange.
Yeah.
Not impossible. It can be weird, though. Or a couple, which is even stranger to me.
Yeah,
like that would be fucking weird. It would have been
odd, but all right. We've also just been watching a lot of 90 Day Fiancé.
Yeah, so it's kind of got me fucked up about like couples and relationships and like norms,
really
like
feel
what's
weird
normal,
about
what's
it all.
not, and then like just like the underlying thing of it is like, wow, everyone's just, most of the time everyone's just really just so in need and maybe even desperate just for like love and for companionship. And it's like you can end up doing some ridiculous shit for that, and that's kind of sad.
I mean, but and then there's also, you know, men that are literally dating almost children. Mm-hmm.
Like all the dudes from America are really old and they're dating like 19-year-olds. Yeah. And that's fucking weird.
I mean, they're in their 50s, like late 50s.
Yeah, anywhere like 30 up and up into like 60 years old. They're dating like 19-year-olds from other countries, and that's
it does have our perception here a little mixed up because we've been watching basically binged. I mean, the first 5 seasons, which that's all they have on Hulu.
It's a lot of trash.
Please add
don't.
the other 2 seasons because I need them.
No,
I need to know.
Don't. Hulu,
Yes,
please
please.
don't.
No,
I mean,
Hulu, do
that's
it.
a lot of trash to take into your system. You know what
But
I mean?
I love it.
That's like...
I love it. So we binged those first 5 seasons and we finished them, and then we decided to start the follow-up season, which is like Happily Ever After, which
to see if the
follows
couples
the couple.
well, not all of them, but certain couples, to see if they made it afterwards. And it's like the same shit, and then I watch it, I'm like, oh man, this is rough. It's rough.
It is.
And a lot of times I can't take it full force. Like, I can't take the brunt. I have to, like, read.
Yeah,
and
you'll be
listen at the
reading,
same time,
and then I'll look over.
I can't just watch it all.
Yeah, and I'll see you, like, hiding in your book.
Yeah, because it's so cringy. It's just too much sometimes. It's, oof.
Yeah, so it's got our perception a little mixed up here. So we could be completely off about this. We just know what could be possible in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, like, it's weird.
Yeah.
It freaks us out.
It definitely was weird. But, you know, it happens. Like, restaurants, it happens. Restaurants are a public place. You know, you see people at restaurants where you're like, who is that? And, like, why are they here? Like, one of the biggest ones that pops up in my head right now is when we're living in Phoenix. And we were eating at that Chinese restaurant we always eat down the street. And
that's right.
It was kind of a similar thing, but this one I think was a little more obvious when you really think about it.
We knew this one.
Yeah, like when you really think about it, we knew what was happening. But at first, we just sat down. They were there before us, and I didn't really notice them at first. But then I happened to look over, because you do in restaurants, you know, you look around you, and oftentimes like you do that weird, like you happen to look up, and the other person across is looking up, and then you meet eyes, and it's like, what? That's weird.
Yeah.
And so like point is you end up looking around when you're in a restaurant, obviously. And when I did, it was an older black guy.
Yep.
I don't want to say gentleman after everything. After what we finished the story, this is why you'll know why I don't want to say gentleman, but an older black guy, like pretty old, like 60s, 70s. I think he was old.
Yeah, he definitely didn't look young. He wasn't, back then, he wasn't probably in his 20s.
But he was dressed.
But maybe a little younger, but,
right. He was
I mean,
like
he was
60s.
older.
He was old. And he was dressed young, if that makes sense. He was dressed young. He had like a hat, but it was kind of sideways, and like nice clothes and stuff like that. And he was sitting with 2 much younger black girls, essentially. Weren't girls.
Weren't there 3?
No, there was just 2, I'm pretty sure. It was him and 2 girls. I mean, not that it matters. Don't get
but
not
the way that I think about it, though, it's like I think there might have been another girl, but it's not really the point.
Yeah.
But I mean, it also goes to like the description of the situation.
Well, let's have an hour debate if whether there's 2 or 3 girls.
Yes. Okay, but keep going.
Anyway, there's younger girls with them, and they were girls. They weren't. I don't even want to say women. You know what I mean? They were young.
I mean,
they weren't
fresh,
like 10 years old, but they're like barely legal. You know what I mean? Like they were like it sounds fucking disgusting, but that's also the point. Like they were 18.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, because once it was over and you and I looked back on it, no one looked slightly older. No one looked like a mom.
No, not
no
at all.
one looked like
well, that's the question.
It was kind of gross because one of them like maybe looked like a daughter.
Right.
But
that was the question after you see them. You're like, that's strange, kind of.
They were scantily dressed.
Yeah, they were dressed nicely, but like low cut dress, like high skirt stuff like that.
Like heels,
like stuff like that. And not that restaurant's not nice, but you don't really dress like you don't need to dress like that to go to that restaurant. You know what I mean?
Not there, definitely not.
So that was also strange. But then you start thinking just the similar thoughts. Oh, like with the people at Denny's, like are they friends? Is that a couple, mom and dad? And at first that's what you think is like, is that dad? Maybe like, but also maybe grandpa. Like they were young enough to be his daughters or something. They were, and then you're like, that's kind of strange. Maybe they're daughters and friends or something like that, family. Right. But you keep looking at them, you keep kind of talking, and hearing what they're talking about, and you're like, no, that's not normal. Because first of all, he was talking a lot, and they weren't saying a word. Like almost at all.
They all had food in front of them. Mm-hmm. He was the only one eating.
Yeah, they all had food, like full plates.
Yeah.
But both of the girls, or 3 of them, I think it was 2.
It might have just been 2, maybe.
Either way, they weren't eating, and he was the only one eating.
Right, and he was like weirdly not charming, but he was talking a lot.
Not charming. He was commanding. He was like all eyes were on him, but that's what he wanted. Like he didn't want them. He wanted the illusion of everyone has their food and I'm giving all this to them, but they better not take any of it, type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can have food in front of you, but you can't fucking eat it because that's there for me, type of thing. You know what I mean? And he was like talking and like kind of boisterous, like, and they weren't saying a word.
No.
And they weren't boisterous either.
They looked almost slightly terrified.
Yeah, they weren't animated or anything like that. They were kind of just sitting there quietly and kind of just looking in one direction. Not like looking around or anything like that, like normal people do when they're eating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like a family would have done when they're eating. And then the biggest thing was kind of in the middle of it. They weren't done eating. He wasn't done eating. He got like a phone call.
Yep. And
then he hung up, and then he was like, okay, like something, we gotta go. He's over there, something like that. Like it was like along the lines of they were meeting someone somewhere.
Yep.
And then they got up and left, and he paid with $100 bill.
Yeah, just
for
like
3 meals at
everything.
a Chinese restaurant. Like, and oh yeah, and they had like they had like all kinds of stuff too. Like it wasn't just 3 meals; they had like appetizers and shit. But like $100 bill is like overkill, and he didn't want change or anything like that.
No,
you
just gave it to him and left.
Like, and I remember the waitress. He's like, "Okay, all right, here you go. We gotta go." And then she like looked at it. She's like, $100 bill. And he's like, yeah, and then keep it, whatever. And then they left.
Yep.
And that was it. And they didn't take any of the food with them or anything like that.
Those 2 other meals that the girls weren't eating were just left.
Yeah.
The appetizers, drinks, everything.
Yeah. And he paid with $100 bill. And that was it. And then they left. And then after that happened, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure that guy was a pimp.
Yeah. And so we get out and we're kind of like freaked out about this because, oh my God, I'm pretty sure we just, witnessed a pimp and his what are they called? Prostitutes?
His hoes.
His hoes. I don't want to say hoes.
His girls.
His
I don't
workers.
Know. His workers. Okay, his workers.
His employees. No,
not employees.
They're more like slaves. But yeah, and you and I were talking about all of this weird stuff, and we're like, we're pretty sure this guy's a pimp.
Like, wait a minute. Like, I remember the moment it hit me, I was like, oh shit, I know exactly what this is, and that's why this is so weird. You know what I mean? Yeah. And a lot of the times in this situation, you have to like trust your gut feeling. Like when you see something, you're like, oh, that's weird, and it's just that little thought. We're like, oh, that's weird. It probably is. There's probably something to that.
It's probably not normal. And
and
it's probably exactly what you think.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even if it wasn't, even if I don't fucking know, like maybe this guy is like a music producer or something, or he does some other type of work.
What's the difference between a pimp and a music producer? Am I right?
I mean, either way, he seems like a dick.
No,
and he seems like that kind of guy.
He had that kind of attitude. And
either
that kind
way
of
about it, and there is something fishy going on with the girls.
No, I'm almost...
No, I'm probably 99% sure that he's a pimp. But all I'm saying is that even if, like, maybe it wasn't exactly what we thought, he's still scummy, and his girls are weird and terrified.
Yes, no matter what. So, obviously what happened at Denny's wasn't as drastic as that.
No.
But I always, we have weird moments with certain people who are in certain places in a restaurant. And you think twice about, like, wait, who was that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, because then there was the group that was, like, beside us, like, on the other side of their partition.
At Denny's. Yeah.
And that was weird, too.
Yeah. Well, they all came in, and then they all sat down, and then, like, the waitress started asking him, like, oh, how old are you? Because there was a couple little kids. And like, one was, like, a kid, like, 3 years old.
Yeah.
And then one was, like, 6. And then one of them was like, oh, I'm 11. And then one of them was like, I'm 13. And I was like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
I'm like, none of you can drive.
I'm pretty sure one of them or all of them, they were dropped off. Mm-hmm. And
maybe that's the case. They're just dropped off here, go eat at Denny's, which is kind of weird. but
Right.
like whatever. But it was just weird because it's like, wait, how did you guys get here? Like that was strange. Another strange,
and they
like,
were all ordering drinks, and it was weird to have 4 children sitting on the other side of us, but no parent.
like with no adult or parental presence at all. Very strange. But that wasn't that weird. I mean, compared to everything else, that wasn't that weird.
So I mean, we had a
weird Denny's trip
experience.
and Denny's experience, and just with that couple who was there, it was like mom, son, friend, like girlfriend, boyfriend. Very strange. And then the whole thing that happened with me.
Yep.
My brain, I don't know, I wasn't in control is seriously what it felt like I was lagging or something. You know what I mean? It was something. Something was not right. And I don't know. It was just very strange. The whole experience was strange. Now that I think about it, all that other stuff was actually weirder than what happened to me. Because it happened directly to me. And like the whole time after that, I just felt so awkward. You know what I mean? Like it hurt. It hurt. Like physically, if awkwardness can physically hurt, it did. Because I was just like, what? I was like talking to you like after that, like what happened? Like it felt like I was on pause, and then after that I resumed and I was okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was weird. No, it was a weird moment. It was weird to be looking and like watching you and her interact.
Yeah.
And then her completely freeze, you're fumbling. It was weird.
Yeah. So that was the first adventure. It was something else.
Yeah. Something else going on.
Other than that, the second thing that happened, it only happened to me, but it was also a weird moment. I was at work, and it was like Friday, and I was off on Saturday and Sunday, and it was the end of the day. We had like 30 minutes before we closed, maybe 40.
Yeah.
And some guy comes up. And we have it all the time. People walk in who want help, who apparently demand help. But, like, we go by appointment basis only.
Yep.
Because you never know how long something's going to take, especially at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So it's not like I can just fix your fucking phone. You know what I mean? Like, that quickly. But anyway, he comes up. He has an old iPad mini. Not that matters, but that's what he had. And he's like, I need help. And it's like, okay, like, what do you need? He's like, he couldn't get in. He was locked out of his iPad. So it needed to be restored through, like, iTunes or something.
Yeah.
And that can take the amount of time I had left, not including closing duties. So I had less time. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, well, we do go by appointment basis only, so I'm going to have to set you up, you know. And then he was like, okay, fine. And then he put down his iPad, and then I noticed... the hand he put it down with was not, I guess, a physical. It was a hook hand. It was not a physical.
A hook hand,
you know, it was not like a hand. It was a hook hand, and that's what he put it down with. And I like saw it, and I was like thinking about. I was like, no, you're still gonna get an appointment. Like you're still gonna get an appointment. It's fine. Like you'll be fine. And then I was like, okay, let me see what we have. We're pretty booked up, you know, so it might have to be like sometime next week. And he's like, well, if that's what it takes, and then. This whole time, he was kind of, like, not turned towards me. He only had one part turned towards me. So then when he did that, he turned completely towards me, and he put his other hand onto the desk.
Yep.
I had my computer on, and he's like, well, if that's what it takes, and he put his other hand down, like, and then he had his other hand was also not a normal hand. It was a hook hand.
It was also
so
a hook
he
hand.
had two hooks for hands.
Yeah.
Like, and then I saw that, I was like, fine, like, I'll fucking, okay, like, I'll help
all
you.
All right,
fine,
I get it.
I'll help you. Like, one hook hand.
No, like, you're not gonna get any sympathy from me.
Right.
You're getting an appointment.
Right. There's a line. And one hook hand, whatever. You know, everyone has their problems. Everyone, you know, struggles through something, whatever.
Yeah.
But then he brings out this other hand, and it's another hook hand. Yep. And I'm like, fine, I'll help you. Like, okay, fine. And then so I was like, fuck it. So I started restoring it, and it was just so fucking random. Like, that does not happen. You know what I mean? Like, maybe one hook hand. You know what I mean? Maybe.
Right.
But, like, this dude had two, and he's just walking around with two hook hands. It was so not anything you'd expect. It to the point where I'm retelling this, and it sounds like I fucking made it up.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it kind of does. I mean, I know you wouldn't, but it sounds fake. Like, that really happened at your work?
Yeah.
I mean, you fix phones?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's...
Yeah.
You know?
It was so random. And then, but yeah. So there's the line, but, 2 hook hands is like, okay, I'll help him. It's 2.
Like, all right, I'll help you now.
That's rough.
Like,
2 hook hands, that's
I
rough.
get it.
But it was also weird because it makes me think, like, I mean, we're at the point now where, like, you don't have to have hook hands.
No.
Like, you can have, there's prosthetics and, like, movable prosthetics or other things you can do.
Right.
But this dude's still walking around, and he was an older gentleman. And he's still walking around with hooks for hands.
Yeah.
2 of them. It's like, what the fuck is going on? And they were not new. They were like old. He's had them for a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can tell.
There's like been so much like medical advancements that he doesn't have to have hook hands. He can get prosthetic hands, and there's so much more.
But he's just like, I don't know, because
likes it.
Yeah, because he's had them so long, he's used to it. Especially like with old people, like they just get used to something. They don't want to switch out their phone. They don't want to do this. Yeah. They still have a fucking.
Well, also, okay, wait. Also, he has an iPad. How does he use it?
Yeah, he had like a little a stylus.
Uh-huh.
He had a little one that he could fit in between his like hook.
Oh my God.
God.
I don't want to laugh at this guy, but it kind of seems like it's right out of a TV show or a cartoon or something.
It does.
I don't want to laugh.
It's not real. It's like a sketch, you know what I mean? And,
like you were being pranked.
Yeah. It's like I Think You Should Leave on Netflix. It's like a sketch from that. Like, this is not real. But yeah, and so like I was saying, like maybe like he's had him for so long, obviously, that like he doesn't want to change, like, you know what I mean? Right. Like, so many old, like, my point was that so many old people do, because, like, they still have their fucking landline, they still have cable, and they still have you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they don't, and so he's like, like, no, I got my hook hands, like, I don't care. Like,
was he nice at least?
He was okay. He wasn't.
Oh, he was a little, like.
Yeah. Oh. He was okay. He wasn't the friendliest person I've ever dealt with, but he definitely wasn't the rudest. So he was just like in the middle.
Oh, well, that's good.
But maybe that should be expected.
You have some straight up like rude, mean people.
Yeah, and they don't have hook hands. They're just assholes.
Yeah,
so, like,
you don't deal with them.
I mean, for a guy with 2 hooks for hands, if that's like, a way to judge it, he was actually probably pretty nice. You know what I mean? Because to factor in the hook hands.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have hook hands and you're really mean, like, that's pretty bad.
Right. You're just an asshole.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah. But if you have hook hands and you're really super nice, you're amazing. You know what I mean? So I don't know why, but it kind of factors into someone's personality.
Yeah.
This is horrible.
This is a terrible podcast.
We broke the podcast.
Yeah, we have insulted our gay friends.
Yeah. And just
now we're insulting disabled people.
Oh my goodness. Well, fuck it.
We're never gonna get sponsored.
Let's keep going. Let's burn this. Let's burn this down.
The thing is I guess, like, well, not necessarily looks, because that's not a look. That's not something you probably choose.
No.
It's the hook hands. And we keep doing the motion. You guys can't see it, but we keep doing it.
We're lucky there's no video right now.
Yeah, we're really lucky.
We're talking, and each of us have our hands up, and we have our two fingers, like, curled in.
Like our index finger and our middle finger, and we're
like,
doing the
like
hook hands.
And not on purpose. It just kind of starts happening when I talk about hook hands, and I don't... Oh.
Yeah. Oh, this is a terrible podcast. Again, we're never gonna get sponsored this way. But like for you and I, who I guess like
please sponsor us. Like... Sponsored by like Arthur. What are they called? What are hook hands called? Like,
are they a prosthetic?
Prosthetic. Yeah, it's like sponsored by Johnson & Johnson Prosthetics. That's our next episode's gonna be sponsored by a prosthetic company.
Oh man. Oh, but I don't know. For you and I, who look kind of scary sometimes, like dressed all in black, and look really. I mean, we try to be like the nicest, most considerate customers ever.
Right.
Like, we don't care if it takes 15 minutes. Take your time. Like, just to. I mean, in a weird sense, like, we overcompensate in a good way because we never want to be perceived as like mean, rude. like all of that stuff, because most people, when they see, I guess, people like us who look like that, they're automatically going to assume, like, oh, these are terrible people.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be perceived that way.
Yeah, they think we could be rude. I think a big part of that comes from, yes, it comes from just, like, I don't want to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, it's just part of being a decent human being. You know what I mean? But then a big part of it for me comes from, like, I've been in that position. Like, I've worked retail. I've worked customer service. You know, I know what it's like. And I know it's like on the other end of things. You know what I mean? So, like, I never want to be a terrible customer or a rude
me too.
person, like, ever. Unless they suck, then that's a different story. But, like, most of the time, everyone's just doing their best. You know what I mean? And I never want to be an asshole like that.
I don't either. So we try not to be. I try not to be because, I mean, I want to be a good person, but I also don't want to be perceived as a bad person because of how I look.
Yeah.
So I always try to be nicer and kinder and smile at babies, and then old women give me dirty looks.
Yeah, well, you can't help that.
No.
But that's fine. I don't mind it. I like scaring the old ladies.
Of course you do.
So anyway, that was the majority of what happened.
That's the weird week.
That was so weird, yeah. And that was the majority of the weird week, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing too weird, at least on those terms, has happened like that. It was something else.
Yeah.
Everything, the Denny's and that, and then the hook hands, that was something else completely. Like, it was so weird. Like, sometimes you live life and you feel like this is not real. Like, this is a movie right now because, like, why this shit doesn't happen to everyone. You know what I mean? Like, that's not normal. Like, I don't know what the odds are of a customer coming in like that and needing help and, like, the whole situation and then them having two hook hands. Like, what the fuck is that, you know? Yeah,
like, how did that happen? How did that become a thing? Exactly. And a thing for you to experience. Yeah.
And why did it have to be me?
I think life just wanted you to talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, that's the question I find I'm asking most of the time in life. Like, why did it have to be me? But it does make for a good podcast. So fuck
it does.
But we do have, I guess, some news we want to talk about, right? Things going on in the world or in the country.
I mean, our description of our podcast, we don't leave any subject like undiscussed. We talk about pretty much anything. We haven't really talked about current events or news related things. Yeah. Or things going on in our that could affect our life.
Right. Like, we've touched on some things, like when, you know, the coal miners in West Virginia and stuff like that, but nothing
since then.
Yeah.
It's like, so we figured pick out a couple articles, talk about them, how they affect our life, what we think about them. You know, just
commentary. Serious
or
comedic. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Because yours kind of follows a theme, mine does not.
Right. But go ahead. I mean, what's yours? What do you want to talk about?
Okay, vaping.
Vape Nation.
Is it killing our children? We're going to find out.
Think about the children.
But, okay, so, I mean, vaping has been around, how long?
A while.
10 years, though, that it's been, like, really mainstream.
Right.
I didn't start vaping until, May of last year? Maybe, June?
Yeah. Yeah, probably around there.
Yeah, maybe like mid-May to June. And I used to stress smoke, and I used to be a social smoker too. If I saw someone else smoking, I would want to smoke. Cigarettes. Yeah. Cigarettes specifically. Tobacco.
Tobacco. What kind of cigarettes did you smoke?
Why is that relevant?
That's a question.
I don't know. I used to smoke Camel Crush.
Camel Crush.
Yeah, the ones with the little bead inside it, and you crush it in the filter, and then it has like a minty flavor. This is weird. Put on the spot. I used to smoke Newports too back when I lived in Wisconsin, but that was like a thing. Oh, I know. I am a trashy Midwestern person. Yeah. Like, that is just, that's in there.
Newports. Damn.
Yeah. But I don't like beer, so I mean, you know, that's a plus.
That's a plus.
It is. Like,
we'll call it a plus.
I'm not as trashy as I could be, because they certainly could be more.
Worse.
But, you know, I still have a weird urge to fix everything with duct tape. or like electrical tape.
Oh, that's just ingenuity. I mean,
that's true. That's true.
So.
But
that's just smart right there. That's smart.
Monkeys. Monkeys using tools.
Oh, okay. I was like, just monkeys. Monkeys. Okay, yeah, monkeys.
I've lost it. Also.
But anyway, vaping.
Okay, so vaping. And I used to smoke whenever, I'd get stressed out or upset or, uncomfortable, if I needed, a mental break. And just for, like, literally, like, the 5 minutes it takes to smoke a cigarette. And I just found, like, it made me feel really terrible, like, physically, not, like, mentally or emotionally. And I didn't like it. I didn't like the way I felt. Like, I would feel really gross after. And it made it hard to sleep at night. So I talked to you and I talked to someone else. I talked to the ex, I guess, at this point. And you guys both, like, we looked it up a little bit. We did a little bit of research and we figured that, if nicotine is what I need, if nicotine is what is helping me, like, calm down, let's try vaping. Let's see what the fuss is about. Let's see, what everyone is talking about. And so it was up to me to do my research to, I was looking online and I was, like, really overwhelmed by all of the different tanks, the different mods, the different, I don't even know what they're called still, but, like, the different things to vape out of. I was so confused, and finally my research led me to a really cool looking shop here.
Yeah.
Like, what are they called? Like,
MCs?
Yeah, MC Vapor Lounge.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I was like, they have really good reviews. Everyone says they're very nice. They're very kind. Let's go here. Let's go here and let's just walk in, tell them I've never vaped before, see what they can do for me. And I was so nervous because, like I said, even just doing research online led me to being so overwhelmed and so confused. I had no idea. But as soon as I walked in there was one worker and she was really nice about it. She asked me and I told her, like, I have never vaped before. I have no idea what I'm looking at. And she's like, okay, let me give you some suggestions. So what kind of smoker are you or were you? And, I told her it's like, well, I'm a stress smoker, so.
Yeah, not to interrupt, but it's Mick E's Vapor Lounge. It's MC, like, capital M, little c, big E, apostrophe S, Vapor Lounge. So
Vapor Lounge.
Mick E's Vapor Lounge. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good that we know what it's called now. We kind of knew, but, like, we,
Yeah.
So, yeah, and she showed me some cool stuff, and, I picked one out that looked the simplest. She showed me how to fill it. She, showed me, they had, like, a little menu, which is kind of cute, because you can go and you can try them, and you can vape there, too. Right. Like, you can just sit and vape.
It's a lounge. Like,
yeah, it's
they
almost
have like a weird bar.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It looks like a bar. And again, every time we went in there, every time I've needed more, juice, or I've needed, I have, like, a question about my vape. They're always really nice. Yeah. And, it's like, I was so grateful. And, here's the thing. Like, I feel better. Like, I don't feel, obviously, I'm not smoking. I have, from June till now, I've spent no money on cigarettes. Now, the juice can be kind of expensive, but if I'm only buying a juice every maybe 4 or 5 months, I'm saving money, too, by not buying cigarettes.
Yeah, cigarettes can be pretty expensive, and they add up pretty quickly.
Well, like $9 a pack plus tax, it can be closer to $10. And that, think about, like, every other week. Yeah. So, like, $20.
Or more sometimes.
Yeah. And, I have had to cut back in the evening at least, like, 2 hours before I go to bed. Otherwise, like, the nicotine, like, I won't sleep. But, as long as, like, I don't, do it past a certain time, like, I'm good. I feel better. I'm able to, I can do it inside. I can do it around friends. Like, most friends don't mind it. I still always ask. Every once in a while if it's cool to vape, or I know some places, like, it might not be cool at all. People who have kids or something like that, so I don't vape in their house. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been a good thing for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And I feel no ill effects every once in a while. Like if I need to change the coil in my vape, which is what heats it up and makes it vapor. I'll get a really weird hit where the juice will kind of go into my mouth, and then it'll like make my throat feel weird, so I'll cough because of that, because it's just like, it's weird. But I've had no like lung issues, no like short breath or chronic coughing, except when I was sick, which I honestly don't know if that was because of vaping. I think it was
I got sick
the illness
too,
yeah.
So, and I don't vape, so I don't think it was because of that.
Yeah, so I've suffered, at least seemingly in the last like 6 months or so, I've suffered, no ill effects from it. As far as we know, it'll, the future will kind of tell. Yeah. But for the most part, I feel like it's been a good thing for me. Right. An adult social stress smoker, it's been a good transition for me to switch to vaping. However, our government and the FDA do not agree with me. And so, here we go. So, I mean, I guess it kind of mostly started because of two things. Because people started getting, well, maybe like three things. People started getting really sick from vaping. And then they also we had, the first death maybe just 4 months ago? 5?
I don't know.
You think something like that? And then the issue was children. Right. Were getting sick. Right. And you and I right away, of course, we were already a little biased because it's like, I'm vaping. I'm not sick. Yeah. You don't see me sick. And we were already kind of like skeptical about the whole thing. Yeah. And I was like, but how are all these people getting sick, but a lot of people are not? Yeah. Yeah. And we were just like, okay, well, how? And then we started seeing more and more it kind of like transitioned to, adult people who are already old, who have lung illnesses or, are already sick, have asthma, have COPD, have other things that they shouldn't be smoking, they shouldn't be vaping at all. We saw a lot of, articles, and I feel like now it's been more confirmed that they were buying, I don't even know.
A black market, essentially.
Right, which is, I'm sitting here like, how do you even get those? Yeah, do you buy them online? Are you buying them from a street vendor?
Yeah, from people you shouldn't be buying them from.
Yeah, it's like, I went into a legitimate shop and I looked at their products. I checked their products before I bought it. Yeah. Like, they were legit. And then we saw like this weird transition to where suddenly there was kind of this like irrational like fear that somehow this is going to kill our children. Yeah. And I was like, there was a couple of studies done too, and I don't have them right in front of me right now, where the majority of high school students smoked or vaped. And I was just like, but is that true? And then it went into this whole other thing and this whole other debate where for you and me, we were like, well, wait, how are kids getting a hold of these things? Because they can't buy them. You can't go online, and I know because I've done this, because I've ordered stuff online. You can't go online and buy it with like a debit card or something. You and I both had to, or you had to check it. I had to take a picture of both sides of my ID. And if my ID didn't directly match up with the information I gave them, it would be denied. Yeah. It's like, so how would you do that?
It wouldn't be easy. I mean, more than likely they're getting it from someone older or a parent. Yeah. Or getting them from somewhere they shouldn't have been getting them from. Again, black market type of thing. Yeah. And again, and I'm just sitting here wondering how many parents or how many, older people are buying these devices for teenagers or completely unaware of what their child is doing. And I think more that's my side of it, like that's my debate. And then we were like listening to Dr. Drew talk about it, which he's a celebrity doctor kind of. But he's a real doctor.
He's a
not
real
like
doctor.
Dr. Phil, who's not a fucking doctor.
Yeah. Like, I mean? He, went to medical school. He did all of that. He worked in a variety of different places. He he knows, or at least he has some better idea than we might.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
he even said it, that nicotine, that vaping nicotine, a patch, gum, whatever form of nicotine you take, is perfectly healthy for an adult.
Yes.
But that cigarettes is ultimately the worst thing you can do.
And I agree, and I don't see how that's not obvious to everyone.
Yeah.
Like, cigarettes are fucking terrible. The tobacco is what gives you cancer, not nicotine.
Yeah.
But on top of that, it's all the other shit they put in cigarettes.
Yes.
They put a lot of terrible things in cigarettes, like fiberglass and weird chemicals, like terrible things that you should never be ingesting in cigarettes.
Especially in your lungs.
And so if you're vaping just water vapor and fucking nicotine, that is always better than cigarettes. Always. And I don't know why that's not obvious to people. And it's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and it's part of, like, the weirdest thing here is, do people forget, like, how many people a year are dying from smoking cigarettes?
Yeah. I think, I mean, no matter what, like, so you've had maybe 5 deaths in the nation from vaping, maybe more, but, like, how many do you have a year from cigarettes? Like, people are fucking dying all the time from cigarettes.
Well, and you and I have another, theory that we're not surprised, or we wouldn't be surprised if the tobacco companies weren't behind some of this stuff.
Well, it's a weird deflection. And then if you actually stop and look at it and listen to it, you wonder why. You're like, wait, what's going on here? Because now the fucking company Truth or whatever that's supposed to stop kids from smoking is now aimed on vaping. And it's like, kids are still smoking. You should still be focused on stopping people from smoking.
Right.
That's still the problem here. You know what I mean?
Like, you still need to look at that.
Yeah.
Because I picked up smoking when I was a teenager. I couldn't have been older than 15.
It's a weird deflection, and you have to ask why. Like, where's that coming from? And it's no secret at all. It's not some conspiracy shit or anything like that at all. It's no secret at all that big tobacco companies lobby in our political system. They give money and they do a lot of shit in that arena. So in some way, when you think about it, it's like, well, why wouldn't they have, essentially, for lack of a better word, a campaign against vaping?
Right, a vendetta against them against
vaping companies and vaping in general.
Right, because you and I, again, we have this thing where it's like, well, yeah, think about how many more users of tobacco, of cigarettes, if they stop smoking completely.
Yeah. If someone was like, oh, guess what? You can still get that nicotine, but you don't get all that other shit that kills you, and it's cheaper. Like, how is that not a threat to tobacco companies?
Oh, yeah.
It's cheaper, it's less deadly, and, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's better for people. Like, they're losing money, you know what I mean? And they're gonna be losing money. So why wouldn't they try to start shutting stuff like this down? Yeah. Now I will say, part of the problem with the whole vaping thing is that when it came out, there wasn't any regulations for it because people didn't know how to regulate it. You know what I mean? And that was part of the problem, though, because it's going so far now that now they're essentially being reined in now. You know what I mean? So and it's gonna have to be the case. Like, they're gonna have to be reined in. They're gonna have to, like, go through all the steps now to be, I guess, quote unquote legitimate. Whatever that means. But I don't doubt that there's still a lot of bias against vaping specifically. Yeah.
So, I guess in the sense, all of this led to, of course, like, our president, Donald Trump, deciding that there should be a ban on vaping, or at least certain flavors of vape juice. And if you guys don't know, I'm sure most of our listeners do, vape juice comes in a variety. You can get anything you like. If you do like just mint and tobacco flavored, you can get that. If you want, apple pie, blueberry pie, anything, I'm pretty sure. Well, no, maybe not. I was gonna say if you like green chili, no.
I doubt that.
I don't think that could be a flavor because you don't want spice in your lungs.
Oh, that's horrible.
It was just a joke, but I mean, anything you want, I tend to flavor, like a watermelon.
You tend to flavor?
Favor?
I tend to flavor the favor. I tend to favor the flavor.
Oh my god. Okay.
I tend to flavor the flavor.
Oh my god, this podcast is going on too long. I'm done.
It hasn't even been an hour.
I tend to favor the flavors that include like watermelon and bubblegum and candy and mostly sweet things, which makes sense if you know who I am because I like sweet stuff. I also kind of favor a lot of tropical flavors too. So, yeah, you can get it in whatever you like. I mean, whatever your poison is, well, not poison. You can get it. You can get it in whatever you want. You know, so, but I guess his point was on the ban was to, and again, I don't know how, I really don't quite know how, like, they put it all to children. I have read of one, and I'm pretty sure it was a fake story because it was presented by the hospital of a teen dying from vaping. I have heard of no other children, you know, I guess under the age of 18 dying from vaping. Yeah,
it's really weird when you stop and look into it, and part of the problem is that no one does. This is part of the problem in this entire country, is that no one stops and reads what they're doing, like what they see. Everyone just reads a headline and that's fact, you know, that's what happened. But on top of that, if they even bother to read an article, they also don't read where it's coming from. And so a big problem was that, like, there's this article about a kid dying from vaping,
like 17 years old,
you read the article,
like athlete,
and then you're like,
that.
Where's this from? And it's not from like Associated Press or any type of news source. It was written by a hospital.
By the hospital
and it's
itself.
Like, and it wasn't even the hospital he died in, like, quote unquote. Like, it was just like, it was like literally like a health company putting out essentially propaganda. And it's so fucking weird. But that's a big problem in this country in general. No one checks where things come from, and they don't check facts in them. So that's with this whole vaping thing. It's like, everyone's just assuming, people are dying from vaping. It's like, well, some people have, but that was from specifically black market products or people vaping when they were already sick and shouldn't have been doing anything.
Be vaping at
they
all.
like had a lung infection or they had like something
like
prior.
COPD or an asthma.
And then they started vaping like that. Somehow that was good for them. You know, that's never good.
And basically giving themselves, which that again, even smoking could have done, like giving themselves like a weird pneumonia.
They could have been smoking cigarettes and it could have still happened. So there's a lot of misinformation that people are just accepting, and it's like, so not really that many people are dying from vaping, and if they are, it's from stuff that they shouldn't have been doing. On top of that, kids are not dying from vaping. I don't doubt that kids vape, and that probably is a problem.
Because they're, you know, it's nicotine in their undeveloped brains or not fully developed brains, which now that is a problem. Smoking and any type of nicotine ingestion, even caffeine.
You really shouldn't do anything until you're like 21, until your brain's fully developed, essentially.
And sometimes that's like not till 24.
Caffeines can be dangerous. Smoking weed, any type of drug, alcohol, including like smoking and nicotine, like that could be bad. You know what I mean? So I don't, like, I'm not saying that there aren't kids vaping,
or that that's okay.
And it's not okay. No, it's not. It's not okay. And I guess I'm not saying that kids aren't dying from vaping. Maybe someone has, but the fear and the numbers do not match. You know what I mean?
Yes. But that's a good point, because it's fear. It is our, you know, and this might sound really conspiratorial, but it's just like our government is creating this fear that is just fueling these, I hate to say this, but helicopter parents and, you know, people who are really health conscious. And like,
and just like everyone, it comes from this weird, I mean, it's a culture of fear. You know, read the book if you haven't read it, but and it's not just, I wouldn't say government like exactly like or fully, it's media too. I mean, that's what the media does. They create sensation, especially now in this time. Like everything everywhere, whether it's social media or it's like news, like Facebook, whatever the fuck it is, whether you're going to a website or you're going to Facebook, it's all about the engagement. It's all about the clicks. It's all about, you know, stuff like that. So they will sensationalize things purposefully to get that traffic. And it's fucking insane. News isn't news anymore, hardly ever. You know what I mean? Like, unless it's like local news or like, I mean, you just have to be, the point is you have to be wary of everything. And it's crazy.
You have to be conscious of it. You have to be woke.
I guess I fucking hate that term, and not because like it's not a bad term, but I'm just so tired of it.
Right.
Like, because now people are using it, and they're the opposite of that, or what it was supposed to be. So it's killed now. People have killed it anyway. But yeah, so like there's definitely sensationalism, and the media does it all the time. If people are listening now and questioning that, like, think about things that have happened. Like, think about in the 90s, killer bees. That was like a thing, and it wasn't a fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like, or like in our generation, a few years ago, it was what was it? The people were getting it from Africa, and it was like
Ebola.
That was such a thing. Everyone's getting Ebola. Right. Watch out for the Ebola scare. And it never fucking happened.
Well, I mean,
maybe like 2 people.
But
these were people that were in
Africa helping, like, or they,
like, they're making it seem like you were going to go outside and walk to your gas station and you're going to get fucking Ebola. Yeah. And it didn't fucking happen like that.
It never happened here. There was no epidemic.
It's never going to. But that's what the news does.
Right. And every few years there's a new one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I mean, this in our society where we live, that's just how it happens.
Yeah.
And there's more. We can make an entire episode of things that have done that over the years, and each generation or each they have their own. Or some are just kind of recycled into the new,
happen again.
Music like, and violent music, violent video games, like violent movies.
All that shit happened recently, and there's still people blaming video games and music.
God.
And it's like, what? Like this, you realize this was an argument from the 90s. But that's part of the problem anyway. We have all these people making decisions for us, like up there in Washington, all these senators and everyone who's like supposed to be in charge, and they're all fucking 70 years old, and they're all fucking out of touch. Like a majority of them are white, a majority of them are male,
men,
and they're all fucking old. And it's like and they're all out of touch. Like that whole thing
no idea.
Asking Mark Zuckerberg when he was like being like questioned, and you can tell that the majority of them, they didn't even know how Facebook worked.
Right. They don't.
And like
they don't
I'm sitting here and I'm like, these are the dudes who are supposed to be making decisions for me?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck do they know about anything and about how life is right now? And it should be a policy. Like, you should never vote for anyone that's male, white, and above.
Right, like above 70. Yeah, above
60
like 60,
to
70 years old.
You shouldn't vote for them because they know nothing about anything. And that goes for if they're female and white and above 60 years old. They don't know life. You know what I mean?
No.
That's not to say all of them, but a majority of them.
A lot of them.
Just don't fucking understand. And these are the people who are making decisions.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
No, it's ridiculous. And I agree with you, because how can these people make decisions for me when they don't know the facts themselves?
Yeah.
Or they're not going to get the facts themselves. Or,
yeah.
Even to a point like where they might be sponsored by a tobacco company that's pushing them to, put through this ban or this legislation.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So it all, I guess in a sense, like it all came to a head last month where Trump did officially, like, he banned all flavors, and companies and stores have to comply within 30 days to remove all other flavored vape juice. Except for mint and tobacco. Okay. This could be a temporary ban. I remember he said that until the FDA can, start regulating it, start looking into some of this, and, hopefully deem it safe, deem it not safe.
Right.
However that works. So there's hope that it'll eventually, like, that won't be permanent, but we'll see.
That's part of the thing with all of this too, is that like we know so little about vaping at this point. It's a new thing. Like there's going to have to be prolonged, like 10, 20 years studies on and to find out and to learn the effects of vaping. It could maybe have effects, like people are vaping now 30 years later when they're older. Oh shit, this is happening now to this generation.
I'm getting sick.
And it's like, oh, we think it's from vaping, but there's no way to know that now.
No.
You know what I mean? So
and there should have been studies. There should have been studies started.
And I guess that's hopefully the point of this too, is that there's going to need to be regulations and studies. There does.
Yeah.
But we know for a fact that cigarettes kill people.
Yeah. Like right now, today, we know that smoking and tobacco cause cancer and that it kills people.
Yeah. And it makes me really cynical about everything. And it's crazy to me that, like, in some way now, it's been so long as far as cigarettes killing people goes, is that in some way now in, like, society, like, it's almost normal. It's like, oh, how did he die? Well, he was a smoker. And,
He smoked.
And you're like, oh, he was a smoker most of his life. And you're like,
yeah, like he smoked most of his life.
yeah, he smoked all his life. And then you're like, oh, that's a shame. And then you just accept that that's how people die. You know, it's similar with, like, alcohol and stuff like that. And I feel like that should never be normal.
No.
That should never be accepted. Like, we should be against things that kill us. And cigarettes are definitely one of those things. Like, it should not be normal that, it should not be just an American institution. You know what I mean? Like it's,
and
like,
I mean, we should normalize, alternatives to that.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. The whole thing is crazy, but it's very interesting, and it will be interesting to see 30 years from now to see if there were any effects of vaping or not at all, or where vaping in general will be 30 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility that as an industry, it could mostly be dead in that time. It sucks that as far as I see it, I might not be able to get any more vape juice from here on out. I have, thankfully,
you have, and that'll be it.
Right, unless it's mint or tobacco.
Which, who fucking wants that?
Well, I don't want tobacco. Mint might be okay because, I mean, I smoked minties or menthol cigarettes, so it's like that might be okay.
Right.
But I'm not in it because I want the tobacco flavor. The tobacco flavor was part of the reason I hated it.
It's so weird that they banned all flavors except for mint and tobacco, especially tobacco, because it's like, it's almost like they're saying, well, you might as well be smoking.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, there was a meme about it. There was like, well, since vaping is banned, here is a healthy, organic alternative, and it was a cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, somehow they're still, like, trying to play it off like, oh, smoking's still better. And it's like, no, smoking still kills people.
Right,
this is still a thing. So insane.
Right now, as far as we know, and if it helps people stop smoking right now, especially in the short term. And for me, vaping wasn't always a long-term thing. I mean, it's been maybe about 6 months, but, like, I feel like, eventually it won't be a thing for me anymore. I won't have to do it. I still do it because I want to.
Be honest, though, a little bit of this, like, against everyone going against vaping makes you want to do it more.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. I vape in the car on purpose.
You with that rebellious, like, side of you. Like,
right,
all of this,
dramatic,
it makes you want to do it more. I know it does.
It does a little bit. It does a little bit just because it's that, it is
like,
that, don't fucking tell me what I can put in my body because I made a healthy decision to quit smoking.
Right.
And this is helping.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I do have a little bit of a collection, but that is all that I have. Once it's gone, it's gone. I don't know if, by this time, like, I'll be able to get more. There is some weird rules in the ban. Like, if you have a pod that needs to be filled, if you go into a shop where you have to show ID, I think those shops will remain open, but they still might have to remove some of their products.
Interesting.
I know a lot of this is aimed at, the bigger retail
like
companies. Juul
is the name of the devil right now, as far as people are concerned.
Right, and there is something to be said. I'll give them this. There is something to be said about how much nicotine you are ingesting.
Yeah, because it can be pretty quick and it can be a lot.
It can be a lot, especially for people who are using Juul, which I know has a higher nicotine count. Yeah. Which can be like the amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes. Right. Depending on how much you vape. People who chain vape, which is, one hit like after the other. Yeah. Me, I do about a dozen a day.
Right. And I feel like that's same to be said of, like, you can say the same of, it's like about the people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if there's a chain smoker, probably shouldn't be smoking. If you're a chain vapor, probably shouldn't be vaping. It's a lot of it's dependent on the people. Yeah. If you have that addictive personality and you can't stop yourself from doing something, whatever it is, probably shouldn't do that thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, that's where we are with it.
And I know
they also changed and I know that this was I mean, this is part of it, but it was kind of a separate issue.
Mm-hmm.
They changed the smoking age to 21.
Right.
So now you can't buy cigarettes if you're under the age of 21, which, I mean, we don't have to fucking worry about because
I'm old as shit.
Yeah, well, you're 30, I'm 27.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. That's what I said.
But that's also crazy. But that's also crazy that, you know, the smoking age has been 18 for how long? Like, you know,
a very long time. And I know for sure that, like, as far as like Juul and stuff is concerned, I think even like the head of the company or the way Juul as a company reacted to this stuff was not smart. Like, they were pretty douchey about a lot of things and not in a good public way.
Their CEO quit.
I don't remember. Like, a lot of weird, ridiculous shit happened. So I'm not gonna doubt that there definitely needs to be some sort of regulation and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I mean, I would really be happy to see it regulated, to see it, you know, FDA at least approved, or if not approved, at least deemed, you know, safe products out there. Right. You know, because I do think adult people who used to be smokers or who need nicotine, I would like to see that safe option available to them. Because the less, you know, adult smokers we have in the world, like, it's good for them. It's better for them.
I think either way, for people to not think twice about everything they hear, and to not think that big tobacco companies have something to do with this, you're crazy.
Yeah, and I think for me, that would be my whole message in it. It's not just for vaping. I have that weird dramatic rebellious streak where it's just like, I'm going to vape more now. I'm really going to buckle down. I'm going to sign a petition when it comes, you know. Oh my God, I'm a millennial boomer.
I'm going to write a letter.
I'm going to write a letter to them. But, you know, it's like, I think my whole, you know, what is it called? A PSA is just like, do the research on what you're reading when you see news articles. You know, just check it out for yourself. If you know, read, you know, 5 articles and you are still, you know, you read 5 other medical studies and you're still against vaping, that's fine. But do the research yourself. Yep. You know, don't take a headline as truth. Don't take one article as truth. You know, be a little skeptical about it when you're reading it, and just, you know, pay attention. Think for yourself.
Think for yourself and question authority. Yeah.
Fuck the government. Anyways, so that is my article and my current event that I wanted to...
I'll leave that in there.
I'll be deported.
You're Native American.
They'll still try.
If anyone should be here, it's you. Like,
but they would still try,
if they're going to deport anyway, it should be everyone else except for you.
That's true. Get the fuck out of here. Go back to...
No. It's true, though. It's true. Like, if anyone should be here, it's you. That they think you're Mexican. They would still try. They'd be like, she looks Mexican.
Right? Like, she speaks 5 words in Spanish, but she's Mexican. I also have a social security card and a birth certificate and an American marriage license, but they would still try.
Yeah. But anyway.
Just kidding. So, yeah, that's my article, and, you know.
Well, my article is different.
We're switching gears.
We're definitely switching gears from vaping to my article, to what I wanted to talk about.
Such a first world problem, and here I am bringing it up.
Right.
All right, let's.
Well, mine's.
What do you have?
If we're talking first world problems, mine is definitely a first world problem. But I thought it was funny. This is coming locally from a local news in Sacramento, California. This happened the beginning of the month around New Year's. It was actually a New Year's Eve thing. Yeah. There was an event happening at I think it was a Hilton hotel, a DoubleTree hotel. There was like a New Year's event happening, so people were staying in town. But at the hotel specifically, there was the biggest swingers party for New Year's happening at that same hotel. Yeah. So there was families staying there, and then a bunch of swingers staying there on the same night. And specifically this was all come to light because one father who wished to be named like anonymous or whatever, like, came forward. But I think that's crazy. Like like swingers and like family all in one place. And
yeah,
like,
it's such a weird,
there was
weird
no
event.
and it says in the article there was no warning from the hotel, like, oh, by the way,
we have a swinger
we have
convention.
a swinger convention going on here, just so you know. Like, I don't know if you want to stay here or not.
This isn't like a thing.
This is up to you, but there are people staying here.
There are swinging happening, like swapping going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like swingers. Like, for those who don't know what swingers are, it's kind of in a weird sense in the same spectrum of polyamory. Like,
it is.
like we're polyamorous, but we're not swingers.
No, we don't. And for us, the definition is like swapping.
Yeah,
basically.
But we don't do that
casually,
right?
You
And
know,
so
for fun.
swingers, it's like casual sex with couples. Who like swap partners.
Yeah,
and
it's for, you know, fun. Like,
yeah,
it's
what they
enjoyment.
do. They're swingers. It's what they do, which is
swinging Santa.
What?
Remember, like, we were watching that, like, I Am Santa Claus?
Oh, that documentary.
Yeah, and there was the whole, like, there was a
He's
little
like,
bit
I'm Santa Claus. I'm the head of the Santa Claus Commission in America, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm also a swinger. So
yeah,
what?
and they go into a little bit of that.
That whole lifestyle.
And, like,
and stuff.
some of the other Santas were talking about it, how, well, there's no problem as long as he's a good Santa.
People, he's a good Santa.
There's no difference
and then
between
some people are like,
swinging Santa.
It's not okay.
Or gay
Santa's
Santa.
supposed to be, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
But
sorry.
anyway, that was weird.
That came out of nowhere.
So yes, so swingers, people, and it's a party. So you know, it's not just like you know, these people, like, they're not just keeping it. All right, it's just 4 to a room. You know, this is a swinger event. Like,
I'm
you know,
sure
it's all over the place, and they're all getting it on. And there's probably an orgy happening at some point.
Yeah.
Like, that's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so there's families stuck in the middle of this, specifically this father, and he's quoted in saying in the article, he's like, people that are paying good money to stay at the Hilton should be aware of what's going on, especially if they have families. And then he goes on to say, you know, there's a hot tub there, and there's crazies in the hot tub.
There's crazies in the hot tub. How?
What a quote. There's a hot tub there, and there's crazies in the hot tub.
Like, wait, what were they doing in the hot tub?
Exactly, like, did something, for him to say that's pretty random, like, did something specifically happen in a hot tub? Like, for him to be like, oh,
like,
God.
You still, just because you're a swinger doesn't mean you have sex in public.
Right.
And that's illegal.
And you probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, it's just, like, I just picture it, and it's like, at what point this dad, like, and it's a dad, so I'm picturing, like, he's on vacation, it's New Year's, so maybe he's like and it's California, so he's like in shorts or something, and he's got his like dad polo on, and he's got his little kid,
or his little button up,
his little button up, and his like sunglasses,
his
like
white socks,
exactly, his white
what
socks,
are they called,
his New Balance sneakers,
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, and he's like there, and I'm just trying to picture, like, at what point does he realize, like, wait a minute, like, there's something fishy going on here. Like, you know what I mean? Because, like, from what I've seen, like, real life swingers, like, from what we've seen in documentaries, like, on that one documentary, like, it's called, like, Kink or whatever, and, like, just, like, on that Santa Claus documentary, and just in other places, real life swingers are not like the fantasy swingers. Like, you see, quote unquote, swingers in, like, porn or, like, movies, and they're, like, all hot. And, like, they're the fantasy of what you would think swingers should be, or what you would want swingers to be if you were one. But, like, when you see, like, swingers, real life swingers, they're like, they are just normal people, and they
obviously, like, apparently, like, the Santa Claus documentary,
not the sexiest people, I would say. A lot of them are actually old.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of old swingers. It's just kind of in that for some reason, in that realm of people, there's a lot of old swingers. There's a lot of, like, creepy swing, like, I wouldn't, most of the swingers I've seen in real life, I would never be like, oh, they're hot. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's sexy.
That's a person, like, that I want to.
Yeah, that's a person I definitely have sex with. A lot. They're just, like, in everything I've seen in real life, swingers are not the sexiest people, and they kind of stick out. Like, so at what point did he realize, like, wait a minute, something's going on?
Oh, this is weird.
Like he saw the, like, 60-year-old lady, like 5'3" lady, like,
in a bikini or something,
right? Like leopard clad bikini, like red dyed hair but short, like cut short.
Yeah.
And she has like these glasses on, like
Right.
grandma glasses, and
Right,
like
but she's like wearing bright red lipstick.
yeah,
And, yeah.
exactly. And you're
when
just
did
like,
he see her?
Yeah.
And was like, hey,
or there's the like 30-year-old dude who's like super skinny and has like greasy slick back hair, and like he has a button up but it's never buttoned up all the way, and like he has like
We're really
some
painting
sort of
a
weird
picture
like
here.
leather like wristbands and stuff like
Yeah.
that, like big leather bracelets, and you're just like, oh god, like, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
like when did he realize, like, hey, there's something peculiar about this group that's also here at this
Yep.
hotel?
Yep, this
and
seems strange.
and was he at the hot tub when this happened?
Yeah.
Because why mentioning the hot tub
There's
specifically
crazies in the hot
there's
tub.
crazies there's a hot tub there, and you know there's crazies in the hot tub. So was he like in his flip-flops going down to the pool
Right.
with his kids, had his like towel and like his
Yeah.
book because he was gonna read.
He's gonna read
He's
what
like,
the
I'm
kids
gonna, you know
played
what
in
I'm
the
gonna do? I'm gonna read in the hot tub, and then he goes down. Like, I got this John Grisham novel that I really need to finish, and then he goes down, and then there's like those characters, the swingers,
Yeah.
are in the hot tub, and then he's like, oh shit, where am I right now?
Yeah.
Like it's so crazy. Like like I would feel like if I was at that hotel, I would pick up on it pretty quickly. I'd
Oh
be like,
yeah, no. Well,
wait a
you and
minute.
I are really observant to
Yeah.
this, and I think that's like some of the other stories we told was we're really observant to our surroundings. I think we would pick it up pretty quickly. Like I think you and I would know.
Yeah.
Like, all right, well, we're
mean,
in the middle of this.
And to be fair, just in the article, he's not necessarily a bad guy. He's quoted again in saying, I have no problem with what people do. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. But then he goes and says, I'm at the point where I don't want to bring my family into that environment. And and it's weird. He's like, he's at the point where he doesn't want to. Meaning that there was a point where he would have been okay with it. But now he's
Right.
at the
When
point where he
younger,
doesn't
when
want
he was,
to do
like,
it.
10 years
Yeah,
younger.
like maybe if it was just me and the wife.
Right, exactly.
Back before we
we would have experimented.
Back before we had Chad and Anna.
Right,
you
we
know,
used to be freaky
yeah,
all the time.
maybe
We used
I
to
would
try
have
new
jumped in.
things.
Maybe I would have dipped a toe into that hot tub. Yeah. but no. He's at the point now where he doesn't want to expose him to that. But there was a point where maybe he was okay with that. And then he goes on in saying that the hotel was not very helpful. He said they were kind of rude. They just sent me a survey on my phone. So all I said was poor on all the answers. You did not help me out. So he got the most the hotel did was give him a survey over the phone. And he wrote poor on all of the survey.
Well,
which
that's
is
something.
also very dad-like. He's like,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm just gonna rate him.
yeah, I'm gonna
Give
hit
him 1 star.
3 on my phone because 3 is poor, and you know,
Right.
he's like, I'm gonna give him a 1-star review. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm gonna go on Yelp. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, yeah.
Like, oh my god, and it's just crazy. Like, I mean, when you look on the other side of this, like the swingers part of it, like the ad alone for the swingers, like it's okay. It says allures New Year's Eve, sex abrasion. They put
Like, that's like a...
sex and sex abrasion. It says celebration. They just replaced it with sex, and sex is in all caps.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, that's kind of an old person thing.
It's just like this is not. If I saw this ad for a swingers party, I would not see this and be like, I want to go there.
Like, I want to go this, babe. Pack your
for the
bags. We're
sex
going.
abrasion alone. I'm like, no. And then it says like they have it's New Year's Eve, right? So they have this theme. So there's glasses, I guess, assuming filled with champagne, like clinking. It's like all really lame, like stock photo stuff, and then there's like kind of a lady in the background, but you can't really tell because it's poorly edited, because there's like fireworks on top of everything, and then in the right hand corner there's a clock because it's New Year's,
Right,
I suppose.
New Year's Eve, the clock counts
And
down
it also
midnight.
says in bright red, different font, it says VIP seating reservations. What does VIP seating mean exactly in a swingers sex abrasion? I don't understand what that...
Well, from the documentary I Am Santa Claus, all I remember is at their swingers club, they had people that could watch and enjoy the view.
So, VIP seating reservations.
That's the only thing I could imagine
so
that
you
means.
better get your reservations to watch everyone else have sex? Like, what the fuck? So
that's the only thing I could imagine what that means.
So even from the swinger side, it's like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think this would be something I want to go to. I mean, we're not swingers, but...
Yeah, I need to get my VIP seating for this sexabration.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and just for me, the whole thing, like, I get stage fright when I'm trying to pee in a public bathroom and
That's
there's like too
true.
many people in there.
Even if I come in just to talk to you, just to
I'm
be like,
I'm
oh, hey,
peeing.
babe,
can you, I gotta pee.
Right, can you do this?
Yeah,
and I'm talking to you for like a few minutes, and like you're still just standing there.
Yeah, like,
and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Can you not go to the bathroom? He's like,
I'm waiting for you to finish so I can fucking pee. Please, why do you have to have this conversation with me right now? And it's even worse in a public restroom with like a bunch of dudes. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I get stage fright just trying to pee in a public restroom.
Right.
Like, I can never imagine myself like in like a swingers, like essentially it's gonna be an orgy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I could not do it. I could not perform. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I could not in any capacity be able to perform in any manner. Like, on top of, like, I would be standing there somewhere in the corner, like, just thinking about, like, where a towel should be put down. You know what I mean? Like, and just be standing there thinking, like, oh, how unsexy this is. And, like, oh, someone should, oh, no. Like, oh, do we have towels? I hope this hotel has enough towels. You know what I mean? Like,
oh my god, we just watched What We Do in the Shadows, the orgy.
Yeah.
Like, episode.
Yeah.
Like, it would kind of be like that.
Yeah.
Like, wrap everything in plastic.
Exactly. Like, I would just be worried about the stains and stuff like that. And just, like, I would just be standing there and just thinking how like unsexy this is. Yeah. Yeah, there's no way.
I'm sure for some people, and again, we're not, like, trying to swing shame you.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's...
Swing shame.
Kink shame.
I'm going to call it swing shame because that's funny.
But, I mean, it's just not something we're personally interested
and that's what I said. I couldn't perform. Yeah. I couldn't do that.
I don't think I could either.
It would not be sexy to me. And because unless I can choose personally everyone who's going to be there and, like, because it's just a bunch of random people. You're not going to get...
it's just couples that you're almost...
There's going to be someone who you're like, I don't like this person. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't want to have sex with this person.
And
my God.
But it's a sexabration, so you have to. You know what I mean? But I could not... I would... Like, I don't know... The only way I could, like, perform in that situation, I'd be the one, like... I'd be hiding... The only way I could perform in this situation is I'd be hiding behind the curtain with, like, my cell phone and headphones in my ears and, like, looking at porn and like jerking off. That would be my contribution.
The one person
that would be my contribution. They're like, you have to have sex, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go do this because, like, I'd have to have headphones. You can't just look at porn on your phone because there's other noises going on. So I'd have to have headphones and be on my phone and be hiding somewhere and just jerking off by myself. Oh, that's it. God. That's the only way I can do that. I would not.
That's great to know as well.
I could not just. I would not be a team player in that situation. At all.
It would be weird. It's not, like I said, it is polyamory, open marriage, all of this stuff. It's a weird spectrum, and swingers just happen to be
That's
on a different part of it.
List.
And it's not on mine. It's not something that I'm into either. Which, it was funny because when we started telling people, when I told my mom, she was like, and I was telling her, it's like, Mom, don't worry, like, I'm not a swinger or something. Yeah. And she's like, well, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
and it's just like, no,
when
we're
you
not
tell people
swapping,
you're polyamorous, they assume swingers. They think swinger, and it's like, this is two different things.
Right. Well, I mean, our relationship, or relationships outside of our relationship, isn't just about sex. Yeah. And if it was, then we would have discussed an open marriage, or just, us being able... Because
that's a different thing.
That is a different thing, and that's on a different
spectrum.
That's a different place in the spectrum.
Exactly.
So, swinging is just not something we're into. It's
not at all.
We're not going to go to a...
I would not be a very, very much of a team player.
Yeah, we're not going to go to a swingers convention anytime soon.
No, or ever.
Ever in our life.
At least not knowingly. We might go to DoubleTree Hilton, and then there might be one.
Right, there
that
might
day.
just be one in the middle of
and if that's the case, I'm calling the news. I'm letting the news know.
No, we're going to talk about it on a podcast.
Yeah, well, both. For some reason, I also picture, like, a news crew being there. Like, what if, like, okay, so, like, there's an orgy happening, right? Yeah. All kinds of ugly and semi-ugly people, and, like, it's just gross. And, like, and then there's, like, a news dude in front of a camera, like, he has his microphone. He's like, I'm here at the Sacramento DoubleTree Hilton at the Allure Swingers Sexabration.
Yeah.
And it's like a very, like hard-hitting piece or something. It's like, you can see the sights, you can hear the sounds, but how can I describe to you the smell?
Oh, no.
And then he goes into his, like, expose.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's perfect though.
Well, so that's it. That was
Those are our news articles.
Was my news article for this. Definitely on the lighter side of things.
Definitely, that lightened things up quite a bit. But that's a good one.
It's equally insane, just the way things worked in that case too, and then, like, just picturing the dad being there.
Yeah,
it's like, I gave him a poor review over the phone.
In a weird way, I kind of picture that being your dad. Because the more and more we see, like, dad memes, that's your dad.
It's like, oh shit, that's
your
my
dad. Has New Balance shoes. He wears white socks.
He's got the khaki
in the
shorts.
Summer, he'll wear khaki shorts and his button up because like it's cooler.
Mm-hmm. Cell phone on the belt.
Yep. Every once in a while, he will carry his cell phone on his belt.
Not all the time. He used to do it more when he worked.
Yeah.
But now that he's retired, he took the cell phone off the belt.
Right.
It's like a cop. He's like, he's retired. He doesn't need his gun in his badge anymore. And my dad's like, oh, I don't need to carry this on my hip anymore.
Yeah. But, so it's like I'm kind of picturing this being your dad. Because this might be something he would, like, do.
And he loves the DoubleTree, so, because they got cookies.
That makes it better of what I'm envisioning. Okay.
And there's crazies in the hot tub. Oh my goodness, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us on this adventure, we'll say.
Through news articles.
Because of this, the Last Word podcast has been burnt down. That's fine. Fuck it. It was fun.
We had a good run.
We had a good run. We had
12 episodes? 13?
This will be our 13th episode, and so we had a good run. And thank you so much. Again, reminder, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all those things. Share. Let people know about us. Questions, comments, concerns, business stuff, lastwordapparel@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. I love you. I love you all. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. And we'll see you next time.
Later.